Well, let's pretend like we're going to play a game of Jeopardy. I'll be the contestant, and my first option is going to be I'll take building up leaders for 500. The host is going to say the answer is I'm exhausted. Every ministry runs through me. And how do I develop people into leaders? Well, when I hit that buzzer, I'm going to say, what is things many pastors say or feel? Now, I know that's kind of tongue in cheek, but honestly, finding and developing leaders has got to be one of the most common struggles that churches face. And that's probably why one of the reasons I hear mostly from church members when they're asked to serve is they say, well, I'm not a leader. Well, I want to welcome you back to our ministry conversation today. And I just want to try to clear the air a little bit. When it comes to building people into leaders, I'm going to share a few ways that we find in the Bible for doing just that, for building up leaders really in any size church, plus some practical tools to get us started. And I also want to address kind of a common question that we have when we think about asking folks to serve, and we say, well, what if people say no? Now, again, why do we have this conversation now? Well, over the past weeks, we've talked about mission clarity, about prayer and small groups. But here's the reality. If you don't develop leaders, all those other things are going to be hard to sustain for the long term. If we look back at Jesus' ministry, he spent years developing 12 ordinary people. Paul then later mentored Timothy, and Barnabas invested in Mark, and really the early church grew because leaders were multiplying leaders. Leadership development is not a luxury for when your church gets bigger. It's how you create sustainable, healthy ministry, regardless of how big your church is. Now, here's a key insight I want to share with you. In many cases, effective leadership development doesn't really happen in a formal program or some kind of classroom setting. Really, it happens sometimes best when existing leaders just intentionally invite people to serve alongside them and then gradually increase their responsibility. You see, Jesus didn't send the disciples to seminary first. He simply said, follow me. And he taught them through real ministry situations, walking together through successes and also walking with them through failures. And this approach works whether you're in a church of 30 people or 300. So let's have just a quick chat about 3 models that come straight out of Scripture. The first one is this. This is the Moses model of shared responsibility. You know, before Moses got to the point to where he wore himself out, his father-in-law Jethro over in Exodus 18 told him to find some trustworthy people and to give them real authority over some smaller matters. Now, practically, if you're a pastor, this example might just tell us that instead of handling every pastoral care situation all alone, take someone with you a few times. And then when the opportunity presents itself, send them out the next time on their own. For teachers, if you're teaching a Sunday school or a small group, instead of teaching every Bible study yourself, mentor someone in your small group as a co-teacher for a month. Look at them as a future small group leader and let them lead for a while. Help them to prepare to lead their own group one day. You start with people who are already faithful in smaller responsibilities, and then you gradually expand their sphere of influence. That's the first model. The second one we could just call the Barnabas model of being an encourager. Now, Barnabas may not be the first person we think about leader-wise when we look at the Old Testament or the New Testament or the one we even talk about most, but he was good at seeing potential in other people and drawing it out. He believed in Paul when others were afraid of him. He gave Mark a second chance when Paul had a lot of questions. Barnabas didn't just identify potential leaders, he championed them. And this works because it's relational, it's not programmatic. You look for people who show up consistently. You look for people who ask thoughtful questions and genuinely care about others. And then you tell them, hey, I've noticed you have a gift for whatever that is you see in them. Or maybe you say, well, have you ever considered God might be calling you to, and then you explain what you think that may be. You can be the encourager that helps them discern God's calling on their life. And then third, the Paul-Timothy model of intentional discipling. Paul didn't just teach Timothy, for example, theology. He brought him on ministry trips. He let him handle real life situations, and he coached him through those times. And what could we do? Well, seek out 1 or 2 people and ask them, hey, I would like to invest in your growth and your ministry potential. Would you meet with me every month and we could just have a conversation? And then can you shadow me some as I serve? Now, this isn't formal classroom teaching. It's life-on-life development through actual ministry experience. Now, beyond those models, people also need some practical help. If someone, for example, is going to lead a small group or a Sunday school class for the first time, Give them some resources and some helps. A simple discussion guide template, some ideas for handling questions, or offer to have an equipping event for all your teachers and encourage all of them together. If you have someone who's stepping into children's ministry for the first time, don't just hand them a lesson, shove them in the room, close the door, and say good luck. Walk them through how to handle a room full of kids. Talk to them about safety and procedures and age-appropriate teaching methods. You could even create simple handouts or checklists for just common ministry roles like ushers and greeters. Here's the thing, most people want to serve well. They just need to know what well looks like and to have tools to get there. You see, the goal is just giving people enough confidence and practical help to take that first step. And by the way, if you want any help creating some equipping tools for all these different roles, let me know. I would love to partner with you or help your people serve well together. Now, let me speak to something you may have already thought that we mentioned at the beginning. What if you ask someone about taking on a bigger role and they just say no? Or what if they're just not ready? What if they mess up? Well, look, leadership development isn't about finding perfect people. It's about finding faithful people and helping them grow. Some will say no, and that's okay. Some aren't ready yet, and that's okay too. Believe it or not, some are going to make mistakes. Well, congratulations. They're human, just like we are. But here's what can happen when you start intentionally developing people. You discover gifts and calling in people that you maybe never expected. That quiet person who always helps, they might have administrative gifts. That person who remembers everyone's prayer requests, they might have some shepherding gifts. You see, the key is starting where people are, not where you want them to be. You look for faithfulness and teachability more sometimes than natural talent or experience. When churches embrace intentional leadership development, we move from begging to equipping people. Ministry begins to flow through many people instead of just one person. And churches become healthier and more sustainable and more effective. And here's the best part. People start discovering their God-given gifts and calling. They move from being just consumers of ministry to being contributors to the mission. Take some time this week and consider one of these three models and think about one that you might want to implement in your own church. And if you feel overwhelmed, try the Moses model. Share one significant responsibility with someone else. If you enjoy encouraging other people, use the Barnabas approach. If you want to invest deeply, choose one person for that Paul-Timothy model. Remember, you're looking for faithful people who want to grow, not people who already have it all figured out. Next time in our ministry conversation, we're going to discuss spotting future pastors in our pews. But for this week, I want to encourage you to pray about one person that God may want you to invest in, and then have that conversation with them about their gifts and about even their potential calling. So see you next time for Ministry Conversations. Have a great day, and God bless.